Welcome to New Rechts, or for our English listeners, New Right. My name is Daniel de Liever, and today we're going to talk about the role of sex and marriage in society. And I'm happy today to talk to Nisa Nolland about this interesting topic. So thank you for being here today.
Wonderful being with you, Daniel. Very excited about joining you, but also about all your important work in the Netherlands and on the continent. Well
Thank
done.
you. Thank you very much. And for people that don't know you, you are a sex historian and you're quite vocal about the topic of today. So
Yes.
I'm looking forward to this discussion. But before we get into what's really going on, maybe you can give a little bit more of an overview of your background for our listeners.
Yes, I'd love to. Okay, I am a sex historian. That means I've tracked sex culture, what are social norms, mores, what we feel is right and good, true and beautiful in terms of family, sex, marriage, etc., for many years now. And I'm very worried, to be honest.
I can imagine. And how did you actually start getting interested? It's not a topic, sex history, that you hear about every day.
No, no. I've always loved the past. My mother collected antiques and she loved history, as did my father.
Hmm.
I was aware, even when I was young, that there was a whole cultural war going on, and
Hmm.
um, and I was very concerned even then. I started reading C.S. Lewis when I was 17. His wonderful That Hideous Strength um, basically showed me the whole global battlefield here, really.
Hmm.
And later on, I found out about cultural Marxism and the Frankfurt School and how youngsters, particularly, are being targeted, but actually all of us. But in
Hmm.
particular, it's Alfred Kinsey. Alfred Kinsey, the father of the sex revolution, which, and he had a few good things to say, but much of what he was promoting is pure poison. It's toxic. And yet,
Hmm.
in many ways, the church refuses to engage. Social conservatives will not open their mouths. So there's a lot to be concerned about. But also, there's help, and we want the best for people. So I do
Hmm.
the negatives. This is wrong. This is bad for people. This damages them. But also the positives.
Hmm. So that's a good outlook. And under this, you could say, quest of all of over these years, has your outlook on this topic changed from when you started out on this research?
Oh yes, I've gotten far, far more worried about what is going on, because
Hmm.
part of, if in terms of this, and I believe it is a revolution, both sexual and
Hmm.
pansexuality. Very much, it's a revolution. And part of the psychology, and I've spoken of my parents. My dad was a family doctor who
Hmm.
loved the human body. He loved bringing babies into the world. He was an amazing man. But he taught me how about doing the psychology, but also um, uh, uh, noting what is happening around
Hmm.
us that is not politically correct, that no one talks about, but is actually landing and changing the landscape. So I've
Hmm.
been very worried about all the stuff that no one will go, and now, right now, people are starting to realize Kinsey's
Hmm.
stuff was toxic. But in the main, conservatives, morally traditional people, good, decent family people, they don't know because our leaders are stumped. They're not talking. So
Hmm.
I have my hands full.
I can imagine. And before we go into what you're worried about, I think the elephant in the room is for a lot of people when they already are worrying about a lot of things going on in their personal lives, in
Yeah.
politics, geopolitics. Why should people actually care about this topic when there's already so much that people have to care about?
Yeah, no, that is a brilliant. Okay, because I would say, I believe it was Pericles, I'm not sure, but along the lines, just because you're not interested in politics doesn't mean politics isn't interested in you. And
Mhm.
this sexual revolution is very much interested in you, Daniel, in me.
Mhm.
It's in the air we breathe. It's a revolution. Now, I would like, if I may, to this is a super book, Strange New World: How Thinkers and Activists Redefined Identity and Sparked the Sexual Revolution. This is by
Mhm.
Paul Truman. Wonderful book. But the deal is, it's happening.
Mhm.
You can note it or not, but particularly what people need to know is it's happening to their kids and grandkids.
Mhm.
That's what is so worrying. So what I do and my group is, again, we give them tools, resources. Again, we expose the bad, but then we promote the good. See, the deal
Mhm.
is, if people actually knew the full dynamic of all of what is going on, they'd go, this is crazy.
Mhm.
But because our leaders will not say, there has been, like, how many women have had an abortion and deeply regretted it? Or they were in a troubled marriage, they took the easy route, they got a divorce and like, oh dear, this hasn't solved
Mhm.
problems. Or your trans person who thought they were stuck in the wrong body. No, you're not. But they
Mhm.
then transitioned and oh dear, I thought it would help. No, it actually has made things worse. So in my
Mhm.
view, we expose the bad, but we promote the good and
Mhm.
stand with the victims who are being caught up in all this. Now, finally, Daniel, the deal is it is very costly. Why should you care? Is because your taxes are paying for it. Right now in the UK, 50 billion is going to help families who've broken down. So instead of one household, it's two. And most of
Mhm.
a majority of the two households, they're from single parent families. So basically, you pay. We all pay, in my view.
Good point. And you were referring to me in your group. What group are you talking about that you're collaborating with?
Yes, well, okay. I run a unique group in London. Although we'd love to have you join, Daniel. It's global. We are folks who see the madness of
Mhm.
cultural Marxism, particularly on marriage, sex, family, children, on those fronts. And
Mhm.
again, we expose the bad, promote the good. And one of the huge other issues that I haven't even gotten into here is the freedom of speech, the freedom to have a right to have another view. So that's one
Mhm.
of our other fronts, is that we promote the freedom to have a politically incorrect view. No, it's not
Mhm.
hate speech. It is actually speaking the truth. Sorry, I can't become a man. You can't become a woman, much as we might like to. You you respect everyone. People are equal, but
Mhm.
behaviors, identities, and lifestyles are not. And
Mhm.
what most concerns me of all this is how they're targeting children. And they're targeting the least, the last, the lost. The kids in
Mhm.
parent homes, the kids who've never had a father. These are vulnerable kids and they're being hooked. They're being duped. And I feel I'm appalled by that.
I agree that the the protection of children is incredibly important.
Yeah.
I must say it's still not 100% clear. You say you're a group of people in London.
Yeah.
I'm just asking also because maybe people want to have
Yeah.
a view, and maybe after the conversation they might also be interested. What's the name of this group, and how could people get in contact?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Oh, please email me. So it's Dr. Lisa, DRLISA 1957 at gmail.com.
Hmm.
Please email me if you're interested. You can go on the group email list. So we track all this. So once a month you'd get an email list. So it's
Hmm.
basically virtual that way. And if
Hmm.
you're ever in London, whatever, we'd love to visit. We have some social live events, but mostly
Hmm.
we do things via Zoom. We have a lot of Christians, but also a lot of folk who are not, who are
Hmm.
appalled by this. And
Hmm.
most importantly, they want to fight. They're
Hmm.
going, stop, we're losing our culture. We're losing our kids. This is not
Hmm.
right. And they want to do something other than wring their hands in despair and
Hmm.
talk about the weather. So,
Hmm.
yes, so they'd be very welcome. My website is msc.support.
Hmm.
msc.support.
Hmm. All right, good. And does the group have a specific name, or just
Yes.
through your website?
Yeah, no, it's Marriage, Sex, and Culture Group London. We
Okay.
call ourselves the MSC,
All right.
Marriage, Sex, and Culture Group London.
Good to get it out of the way. Let's get into the topic. I think when we talk about the sexual revolution, most people that are a little bit of aware of this will date this back to the 1960s.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you agree with this, but let's start. What's for you the starting point of the sexual revolution?
Okay, well, certainly, um, as my certainly there are many contributing factors. We could talk all day about what's actually going on, but
Hmm.
why the 60s in particular? Okay, so we have the pill that was a technological advance, the birth control pill, huge, that was big. We
Hmm.
have the impact of two world wars, which basically changed the moral landscape. Um, in some ways for better, but in many ways for worse, for the worse. We have religious commitment declining. Uh,
Hmm.
in the main, in my view, the real culprit here is Alfred Kinsey. And so I have a little show and tell here. So here's our Kinsey, and this is his book, Sexual Behavior in the Human Male. And
Hmm.
that was published in 1948. And many people consider it like the A bomb, like another atomic bomb, because it said its premise was um, good, respectable, moral people are engaging in horrific, extreme, bizarre sexual behaviors all over,
Hmm.
and we pretend otherwise. So what he's saying is liberate sex, lift the lid, explore, explore, explore. Now,
Hmm.
and and so he quote unquote did this research to back up the fact that what people had thought was extreme, bizarre, no one would ever do this. Oh, no, it's very common, it's normal and common and good. So it's his research. And then
Hmm.
the other, so I've talked a bit about this cultural Marxism. It hooked up through the mainstream media
Hmm.
promoting this craziness. So the statisticians back then who knew how he had gotten his findings said, stop, this is ridiculous. He's not, and in fact, 86% of his quote male samples were
Hmm.
sexually abused boys, prostitutes, homosexuals, convicted sex um, folks in prison, loads of prisoners, etc.
Hmm.
Hugely skewed basis. But hey, the mainstream media and the zeitgeist of the 50s, as it were. They wanted to promote this. So it's like sex is great, sex is wonderful. Let's explore, explore, explore. And now the truth is, Daniel, no one actually knew what was involved in his explore, explore, explore. So if I may, I will read
Hmm.
what Kinsey actually was
Of
promoting.
course.
Yeah. Okay. For Kinsey, all types of sexual activity, sex with the opposite sex, sex with the same sex, sex with both sexes, sex with children, sex with whips and chains. And that, by the way, that's called kink. And many of our youngsters, even now, are taught about leather in
Hmm.
school. That is where pain is involved. Pain is part of the sexual protocol.
Hmm.
Completely mad, but anyway. Fisting sex. Now, fisting sex, no, you don't put this up your vagina or anus or your partner's vagina or anus. No, you do this, lots of lube, but then you insert up your anus or your vagina. So, fisting sex. Sex with animals, all kinds, any kinds, was normal and common and good. Normal, common, good. And that has been what has been
Hmm.
rolling out
Hmm.
ever since. And it's particularly, even our youngsters are being taught about this stuff.
Hmm.
It's what's so crazy.
Let me then, just so you can make your point. I would think that there are a lot of people listening, that are thinking, there's a line that you don't want to cross.
Yeah.
For different people. That's different things. I think what most people nowadays still agree with is bestiality and pedophilia, two of the things that you named, that are definitely seen as immoral.
Yeah.
But you're saying that this is what his views are. Do you also think this actually translates to what we're seeing throughout the sexual revolution that also these kinds of, I would say, moral acts are promoted? Because I would say that most people would not agree or would not be aware of that.
Oh, totally. Most people have no idea. Oh, and by the way, many of the behaviors, they're actually orientations. And
Mm-hmm.
they're coming out now too. So LGBTQ, so lesbian with women, gay with men, bisexual with men and women. T is I'm in the wrong body, so male transitioning to female, female transitioning to male, and
Mm-hmm.
queer, which is anything up for grabs. That's just the start. There are
Mm-hmm.
all these other sexualities emerging. And again, what they say is, hey, this is me. Love is love. What's the
Mm-hmm.
problem? And our side, again, they are totally back footed and oh dear, what to say. I
Mm-hmm.
can't be homophobic. I can't be phobic, as it were. And
Mm-hmm.
so, what my group does and what I do is these are high risk, dangerous behaviors. No one should be engaging in them, regardless of your quote labeling. There are
Mm-hmm.
many behaviors. Again, people are equal, but behaviors, lifestyles, and identities are not equal.
Mm-hmm.
Many come with a huge roadkill, loads of roadkill. And again, no one knows this.
Mm-hmm. And when you say all these behaviors, I think a lot of people, especially a lot of people listening to this from the Netherlands, would have a very different opinion. How would you respond to people saying, I draw the line, for example, at pedophilia and
Yeah.
bestiality, but what everybody else does, no matter if they're bisexual, homosexual, heterosexual, that doesn't matter so much. What would you say to these kind of people?
Okay. Now, I haven't gotten into all the actual downsides physiologically and in terms of biology and physiology of
Mm-hmm.
this stuff. But in terms of behaviors, okay, yes, I understand. And to be honest, I'm not going to be gunning for adult LGBTQ. If that's what they want to do, so be it. But what I am very
Mm-hmm.
concerned about is these behaviors and this mentality being foisted on youngsters. And then I will come back with these are high risk and damaging lifestyles. Do you know, for instance, with gay guys? So
Mm-hmm.
anal sex is a big deal. I know no one wants to go there, but our kids are being taught how to do it safely. So you've
Mm-hmm.
got to go there. Like whether you like it or not, this isn't about us. This is about them. Right. So we
Mm-hmm.
have over 4% right now in the UK population who identify as gay. So men having sex with men. Okay,
Yes.
so they have just under 30% new HIV, 60-ish new percent new gonorrhea, and 70-80% new syphilis, just in terms of these STIs, STDs.
Mm-hmm.
That is not counting the anal cancers, the other kinds of cancers, hepatitis A, B, C, etc. Huge roadkill from
Mm-hmm.
having your bottom be seen as a sex organ. No
Mm-hmm.
one should be doing that. I don't care what you call yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I do the public health. This is high risk and damaging. And again,
Mm-hmm.
no one should be involved. And we should not be teaching our children how to do it safely, which is a complete oxymoron. It's like
Mm-hmm.
how to have get high with heroin or whatever safely. You don't do it safely. So
Mm-hmm.
that is kind of my response. Adults, whatever, but you don't publicly promote high risk behaviors and
Mm-hmm.
particularly to children and young people. That is obscene in my view.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think it's good that we got that out of the way. If we go back to the sexual revolution,
Yeah.
what do you think are like the big misconceptions that people might have about this topic?
Okay. Alfred Kinsey struggled hugely with
Mm-hmm.
impotence. The father of the sex revolution had a very difficult time having an orgasm himself. He was a masochist. That means he would insert objects up his penis while he's masturbating, and these are hard, like toothbrushes, um, um, sticks. I mean, basically, he inflicted pain on himself while he was masturbating in order to have a climax. And he loved being filmed. That was his quote research. His sexual research is complete rubbish. So the biggest misconception is that
Mm-hmm.
this is based on the science. No, no, this is based on a deeply disturbed, diseased individual who duped the world
Mm-hmm.
in very successful ways. And I will be fair, he got one thing right.
Mm-hmm.
Sex is fabulous. And so in terms of, we've talked about the bad news, good news. My views are sex is fabulous. Wow, we love it. But also sex is fire.
Mm-hmm.
Sex is big. Sex is for later in terms of youngsters. It's for later, for love and marriage. That gives you the best sex. See,
Mm-hmm.
Kinsey claimed that he was so into sex. Well, he really struggled, really, really struggled.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's fraudulent. And the woman who I'd like to talk about. This is a fabulous book. It's by Judith Reisman, Sexual Sabotage: How One Mad Scientist Unleashed a Plague of Corruption and Contagion on America. Superb. So Judith Reisman, Sexual Sabotage. She's saying it's a fraud. It's a fraud. And people who knew, hold on, his science is
Mm-hmm.
is ridiculous. They were not given the mic, same as here. We don't have the mic. So
Mm-hmm.
we can't say, stop, this is actually a con. You're being duped. That's my response.
Fair point. And what would you say when it comes to sexual revolution? I think the general view, if I look at the Netherlands
Yeah.
and I think most more progressive countries that you can think of, would say, what the sexual revolution did was there was this oppressive, patriarchal kind of system
Yes,
that did
yes.
not allow people to
Yeah,
have freedom
yeah,
over their own body, over own decisions.
yeah,
And, then came the sexual revolution and
yeah,
emancipation and all the wonderful things. And then basically we got to a point where people can have the freedom to make their
yeah,
own decisions, do what they want. This is the general picture.
yeah.
Um, what do you think about people that I think the general population that would believe such a thing?
I'd say, I'm so sorry. You've been duped. Right now, we used to have, sorry, I would say I understand, and there's a little truth in that perspective, but in the main, the sexual revolution has meant we used to have two STDs. Now we have over 30. We have one in five, for instance, in the US have one STI or STD. This is in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the health, huge issues
Mm-hmm.
in terms of mental and physical well being, huge issues in terms of marriages and in terms of pornography. Actually, that we haven't talked about that at this point. Porn has been a huge factor in promoting the sex revolution, pornography. And who's really being hooked are the youngsters.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, we have over half of all child on child sex abuse in the UK done by children 10 to 17 years of age because they have not done the science, these kids do not know that, hold on,
Mm-hmm.
this is a really bad idea for all sorts of reasons. And it's monkey see, monkey do, show and tell, go and do. So
Mm-hmm.
there are huge numbers of social pathologies that have been created because of the sex revolution, but because mainstream media doesn't want to talk about it, well, it doesn't exist. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say, please do your homework because there are
Mm-hmm.
huge downsides. And right now, we're starting to see, for instance, the plague of fatherlessness.
Mm-hmm.
Youngsters, young men, there's superb research out there. They're really damaged and they are struggling. So,
Mm-hmm.
and girls need dads, but boys almost need dads almost more. But yet, see, the sexual revolution said, whatever, do whatever, go for it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, that is just ridiculous. It's like, it is, it sounds great, but in terms of
Mm-hmm.
actual rolling out what it looks like, no, it
Mm-hmm.
isn't great. And in fact, it's a recipe for disaster.
All right, and I have two questions here.
Yeah,
First of all, we talked about Kinsey,
yeah,
but this is one man, right?
yeah,
The real question is how did it become so impactful? And I heard you already say and bring in cultural Marxism.
yeah,
I think not all people will be familiar with what this means. So maybe you can explain what does this mean and how did this play a role to make the sexual revolution what it became?
Yeah, okay. No, that's a great question. Okay, had Kinsey quote unquote did the science. Now that's we are constantly back-footed because it is, oh, well, Kinsey knew the science, you know. Yeah, that's one of the claims. But if we had not had the bigger framework, in my view, of the cultural Marxism and the Frankfurt School. Now, one of the ideas here is they are struggling against the oppressive, patriarchal, discriminatory regimes of marriage, the family, the nuclear family, religion, etc. Kind of the traditional way of doing life. Oh, we don't want that. No, we want to explore. We want to fly. Well, right. And see, Kinsey's stuff then was very, very helpful. So in some ways, he hooked up in terms of, so we have Marcuse, who's very much into all this. We have a whole so this book here, Strange New World, How Thinkers and Activists Redefined Identity and Sparked the
Hmm.
Sexual Revolution. It's Carl Trueman. That's a very good book. So he
Hmm.
goes into more how just a tiny handful rolled out this revolution because they were the same now. Actually, many people don't want to sign on to this, but the elites or those in power make sure that the opposition, they get the mic and they get all the airtime. So all the downsides of all this rarely come out. No one knows. Stop.
Hmm.
Your abortion, or abortion. I had my abortion, and guess what? Let me tell you, I paid for it. See that narrative. That doesn't. Or I had how many sexual partners, and you know what? That's really damaged me. This is see, sex is big. It's not little, and the consequences from it are huge. But again, people don't know it because your mainstream media, your BBCs, they will not go there. So people think it is
Hmm.
little and that it does not have costs. It has huge costs, but
Hmm.
again, no one knows.
And do you think that mainstream media and also I would say in many cases many scientists and other people in the field in corporations why are they reluctant to speak out on it when, like you're saying, there's a lot of research coming out on some of the
Yeah,
effects of this revolution and this transition and what kind of damage it has done to society?
yeah. Okay. Well, always follow the money. Always follow the money. There are vast amounts of money to be made by
Hmm.
getting kids sexually active. Oh, then the activists then go to the local government and they say, right, we need access to abortion because whoops, the condom broke or whatever. We need pills in terms of antibiotics. So it's big pharma. They are very much part of this. That's a huge growth industry. But also pornography is a huge growth industry. Fabulously, again, follow the money. There's where
Hmm.
there's money to be made, then you
Hmm.
find people who are saying, stop, this is wrong. Well, again, they don't get airtime. But in terms of
Hmm.
our political elites, why do they not speak up? Well, there are all sorts of reasons. Or our social conservatives, our good, decent,
Hmm.
honorable public leaders, why are they not speaking up? Well, there are probably all sorts of reasons. Sometimes it is this stuff has come too close to home, so they dare not go there. Like it's too tricky, or their kids are LGBT, or they have financially benefited in some way from some of this, so they don't want to say to be against any of this. There are
Hmm.
various reasons, but the bottom line is people are
Hmm.
paying, people are suffering from this
Hmm.
quote sexual revolution.
I think that's clear, and it brings me to, I would say, another point is, and you already briefly mentioned it, and that is what you call the pansexual revolution. I must say, I think many people are not going to be familiar with this, but maybe you can first of all explain what does pansexual mean, and what do you mean by the pansexual revolution?
Right. Okay. So pansexuality is anything goes. So I read you the list of Kinsey having sex with this,
Yes.
with that, with this, with that. Right. Well, essentially, what's happened is many of these groups
Hmm.
and these because of connecting via the internet, these groups
Hmm.
have come together and found, hey, there are lots of us who really, we are zoos. Okay, so this is one of my little show and tells here. This is poor Kobe, Kobe Beck. He's an out pedophile. So he's many times zoos love, they have intimate relationships with large mammals, so horses
Hmm.
and dogs. So Cody says being zoo is like being gay in the 1950s. So that's one sexuality that's coming out. Another is GSAs, genetic sexual attraction. So here we have from the New York, this is what it's like to date your dad. Here we go. So this is Science of Us. We have another from this lovely poor little Kim who says, I'm in love with my son and want to have his baby. Now, it would be,
Okay, so yeah, that is even there. Okay, that so these are all these things are from newspapers, if I understand correctly,
oh
right?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And people are coming out and just saying, you know what? I'm tired of being in the closet. Love is love.
Okay, okay. And according to you, this started in the 1980s, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Okay, it's building on Kinsey from the late 40s and 50s. Yes. So
Yes.
all these other sexualities. So LGBT, that's kind of stage one, but all these others. So there are zoos, maps. Oh, minor attracted people. See, your pedophiles say, no, no, I'm not a pedophile. No, those are evil, awful people. I'm MAP. I'm a minor attracted person and I'm coming out because you know what? This is me. I've always known that this is me. I was born this way. I'm not hurting anyone. And the smart maps say, and I'm not after having sex with your 8-year-old. Don't, no, no, no. Oh, no, no. But this is me. This is my sexuality.
Hmm.
And if you say, no, 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 it's like, excuse me, this is discrimination. This is a phobia. So
Hmm.
the deal is we accept everyone. If love is love, hey, the sky is the limit.
Hmm. Okay, and what would you say? There are a lot of, I assume there are going to be people listening that are going to say, okay, I'm not for normalizing pedophilia, but you also nowadays you see kind of this association when you talk about this with conspiracy theory.
Oh,
That's the
yes.
association people have. What would you say to people who say, yeah, this story? There might be some crazy newspaper that has one or two articles about it, but it's a whole conspiracy theory to say that this is being normalized.
I just say, sorry, do your homework. Oh, it's not, it's not. It starts in there are many. I've spent my life tracking this for the last 40 years, and I've been wrong once. I
Hmm.
never saw the envelopment of culture by the trans movement. A 6'5"
Hmm.
male who claims to be Sarah and who is female and is suing you and me for calling him or her, etc. I never
Hmm.
saw that coming. Otherwise, everything sadly that I said, stop,
Hmm.
this is coming, that is coming, that I've been right,
And
sadly.
and people that are highly skeptical, where could they do their research to maybe be more persuaded? What kind of studies or evidence do you think people should look into if they want to come to terms with this reality?
Okay, so just start going on the web. Type in zoophilia. Type in GSA, genetic sexual attraction. Type in MAP, minor attracted people. See, there are huge communities out there. And some of them are more extreme than others, but they're all saying, hey, hey, I'm tired of being in the closet.
Hmm.
I am
Hmm.
coming out.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
tough. If you don't like it, and actually, how dare you discriminate against me?
Hmm.
You are the bigot. You are the unjust, unfair. You're ignorant. See, what I do is I read all their stuff. They are, and many of them, they sound plausible. So it's like, hey ho, if love is love. So my response is A, to those who don't think it's happening, sorry, do your homework. But B, the issue is we all discriminate. And see, so I come back to the role and the need for free speech. And that's one of the things my group does, is promotes free speech so that we can have an argument. Stop. You say this and this are fine, but that and that aren't. Excuse me. You are discriminating. You're drawing your line here. I draw my line
Mhm.
there. But
Mhm.
none of us, quote, accept everyone. Love is love. Stop. No one does, except some of these alternatives. So for those
Mhm.
people, I say, you discriminate too. Just be
Mhm.
honest about it. And then we
Mhm.
can have an honest discussion. You draw your line here, I draw my line there. But none of us
Mhm.
include everyone. Love is love. Everyone is welcome here. No,
Mhm.
no, that is total flat earth. That's wrong.
That is true. Although I think what most people would say then is, for me, it's mostly if people start harming other people, where people draw the line. Right? This is the line that people draw. That is why people say, things like, for example, pedophilia are a step too far, because then it's not about what you do yourself in a bedroom with someone else with consent. It's about doing something while harming an innocent child. I think this is the general consensus among. People, for example, in the Netherlands and other Western societies.
Okay, no, fair enough. And I totally hear you. Okay, but I would push back though, stop. The smart ones say non-offending. So are
Mhm.
you going to promote and legalize and legitimize socially no maps, non-offending, minor attracted people? So, okay, fine. I won't have sex with, and mostly they're men, but there are some women as well. Okay, I won't have sex with your 8-year-old, but this is me. And
Mhm.
I want you to accept me as me. And
Mhm.
most of the folks that you're talking about would go, stop. Well, that doesn't seem quite right.
Mhm.
Or you,
That's a fair point. Yes, but it's good. I'm trying to give a little bit of pushback because this
yeah,
is
yeah,
this
great.
this this is important. In the beginning, you said, I think we talked a lot about the the bizarre negatives. That's definitely. But let's also talk a little bit about the positives.
Yeah.
Because sexuality is not only, of course, negative. It's in many ways
Oh,
very
it's wonderful.
positive.
Yes.
Um, I think from already talking to you, you're also making the case that the alternative to all this, you could say, is like monogamous heterosexual marriages, right? That's the alternative to it.
Hmm.
Could you make the case, especially also for people that think that maybe this is not a perfect alternative, it's just one of the different options, why this stands out compared to all the things we already talked about?
Okay. Well, okay. In some ways, it is a good time to be alive. At times, I've wondered, but because we can compare. If you are in a monogamous marriage, a
Hmm.
committed, loving, male, female, and you're working on your marriage, etc. And it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. That's for sure. But it's good enough. People, in
Hmm.
terms of that, though, from coming from there versus all the alternatives, these folks are far happier. And they raise children in terms of children. So they know their mother, they know their father and their mother both invest in them when they were tiny up to when they are old. See, this whole family is way
Hmm.
more important, far more important than anyone would know. So they're excellent groups. In fact, will send you my document here that help troubled marriages, that help
Hmm.
people. Now, for me, if there's violence involved, no, no, or infidelity, no, no. You've done. Move on. End and move on. But for a lot of marriages, it's not that. It's just, oh well, we've grown apart. He drives me nuts. Whatever. Or I've found someone new, and it's like so, yes, and you're talking about positives. Another wonderful positive is Joe Malone's. He is a sexual integrity scientist, and he
Hmm.
talks about why traditional monogamous marriage is so good sexually. It's so good in terms of binding people and helping them grow something that's
Hmm.
amazing, both for themselves, but their children, and then intergenerationally, so that grandparents, aunties, uncles, etc. It's the family system. That's really good, far more positive than this
Hmm.
individualistic, I'm into dogs or I'm into horses or whatever. Um, and also, I would want to say, these folk here who are into sexual stuff, minority
Mhm.
stuff, they need help. Why? Why
Mhm.
am I sexually attracted to whatever, to a dog? Why am
Mhm.
I sexually attracted to my father or to my mother?
Mhm.
And see, basically, if love is love, so what the other thing is in terms of positives, we do a lot with ex LGBT people, tons, because they
Mhm.
have the t-shirt. Hey, I was there for years and I got to pay for it. And what I have now is so much better, healthier, holier, um, well, full orbed. It's so much superior. So we both
Mhm.
do, again, the bad, but also promote the good and
Mhm.
getting people out who are stuck in terms of these other issues. I think that's also very important. And finally, for children, investing in the future is
Mhm.
way more important. You and I hated growing up. It was really rough. A lot of people. Right now,
Mhm.
it's a piece of cake compared to what a lot of youngsters are looking at, largely thanks to the social media, the internet, the whatever. So really, it's really important in my view to invest positively in these kids, give
Mhm.
good sex ed. They
Mhm.
should be flying. And so that's another in terms of the family, investing
Mhm.
there.
I think um, I think that's a very good point. So you gave some tools that we could use in society
Yes.
to change things around.
Yeah.
But let's the last question I would have is, let's say that this doesn't happen. Let's say we
Yeah.
just keep going on the current course.
Yeah.
What do you think will happen to predominantly Western societies?
Yeah. I'm so glad you asked that because I wanted to talk about J.D. Unwin. Now, he studied dozens of societies in the 30s. So Hitler is taking over Europe, etc., etc. But Unwin is studying, and his book is Sex and Culture.
Mhm.
When does a culture do well, and what happens to cultures over time in terms of sex? And this is what he came up with. And again, I'll send you this link. So this is from 1934. He wrote this. If total sexual freedom was embraced by a culture, that culture collapsed within 3 generations to the lowest state of flourishing, which Unwin described as inert and at a dead level of conception, which is characterized by people who have little interest in much else other than their own wants and needs.
Mhm.
At this level, the culture is usually conquered or taken over by another culture with greater social energy. So for instance, what happened to the Etruscans? They
Mhm.
used to live where the Romans then lived. What happened to them? Well, they simply, but for whatever reason, they
Mhm.
stopped having babies. They stopped producing. They stopped. And you know what? Then the Romans came and they were far stronger, far more whatever.
Mhm.
And they also, no, I'm not sure about the Etruscan sexual morality thing, but certainly the Romans at the start were very sexually rigid. They were not
Mhm.
whatever you want to do. Oh, no, 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 no. So there are long term consequences to this. Now, is Unwin right? I don't know, but very soon I think we will know. Now, the other thing is there has been some pushback in
Mhm.
terms of the public space acknowledging huge downsides to this. Like, hold on, this is really bad. So we're having pushback with pornography. Stop. It's not little bits of naughty fun. Huge pushback with transgenderism and huge pushback in terms of the loss of freedoms of speech, etc. It's like, stop. This is not a level playing field. This group
Mhm.
gets all the airtime. That group doesn't get any airtime. How is that fair? So we are seeing some good reclamation, I would say, but I don't know.
Mhm.
Time will tell.
Time will definitely tell. Although I will say it did sound a little bit familiar when you talk about hedonism. It was a good description of hedonism. I hope that we can make sensible decisions together as a society. So thank you for very much for coming on and taking the time to talk about this sensitive topic together.
Thank you, Daniel. Delighted to be with you.
And of course, I also want to thank all our listeners. If you want to make these kind of conversations possible, then please consider subscribing at nieuwrechts.nl or on our social media, and see you in the next one.